Canadian rock and roll royalty in the house today.
Ooh.
Thank you very much for coming in. Thanks for coming to Lethbridge. We're very excited for your show tonight at the Stone. How's the tour going?
Tour's been amazing. So far, all the shows have sold out. Crowds have been crazy, and we, we feel really good about that.
Yeah.
How would we feel? Yeah.
It'd have to be, fun because both of us play in both bands, so
Right.
that makes for a night of around about 3.5 hours of playing and singing every night. And if it wasn't going well, but more importantly, if it wasn't fun on the bus and afterwards and the hang, that would be a really long.
It would be a long tour,
road.
but it's yeah. You know the tour's been going well when you can never find individual guys from the band just off on their own. I need some alone time. It's like they're traveling in packs, going like, "Hey man, I was gonna get a coffee. Do you want to go? Yeah, let's all go." I'm like, really? You guys aren't sick of each other yet? No man, let's all go. We haven't toured in 8 years. Let's watch a movie. Yeah, like here, 12 people huddled in the front lounge of a tour bus watching The Big Lebowski. Like,
Awesome.
This is really cute. It's almost like
And what a
Cub
great movie
Scouts
to
or
watch
something.
together.
And recite all the lines.
It's like a Cub Scout outing, only with drugs and alcohol. It's amazing.
Yeah. Is that different from how you guys remember it?
There was a lot of nice family vibes always with our bands, and the two bands combined too. We
Right.
toured together since 1996, and have worked together in the studio and all manner of things. So there was always a sense of togetherness in the group. But at the time when Big Sugar broke up, it wasn't due to animosity or anything like that. There were no lawsuits or any of that nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
It really was just, hey, let's call it while we're on top, rather than let it kind of dwindle down to a dull roar. It's like, this is going great, but we've been doing it for 10 solid years of
Right.
from 2003 back to 93, we toured everywhere. Like one year we did 300 shows.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I figured, we don't know anybody in
Yeah.
rock and roll here, so we called it. And then after 8 years of not touring together, we just looked at each other and went, hey man, that would be cool, wouldn't it, you think, if we made a new record? So we made Revolution Per Minute, and it really gave us some new motivation and a new focus to go out and be a band again. Because it's not really a reunion tour, we didn't, that had been offered to us over the time we were away. Every year there were offers, put Big Sugar back together, play your hits, and make a big, bag full of money. I was like, I don't really want to do that. I don't need the money. I don't need to do it for that. So having a new record and the band back together, that's given us all the inspiration we need.
What was it like for this new record? Because it's been 20 years since your first one came out with Big Sugar. 20 years this year.
Ouch.
Wow.
Yeah, I made the first record when I was 9. That's not true.
So what was it like going back in the studio and with these guys who you made a debut album with
It
20
was
years
easier. The one thing about technology has made record making a lot easier than it used to be. And some people still do it the hard way. Like, even though you got all this technology to make things convenient, they use it, but then they still take way too long and second guess and use the computer to fix all kinds of stuff. And none of our people, and I mean both bands, Wide Mouth and Big Sugar, we kind of don't believe in that. I mean, you're only as good as you are. You go in the studio, you sing your song, you play your song. That's as good as you are. I'm not here to trick anybody down with a computer. There's software that can make you sing perfectly in tune. If I sang perfectly in tune, I'd have been Canada's next whatever dance hall star. You know what I mean? It's like I don't sing perfectly. People don't pay money to hear me sing perfectly.
Yeah.
They hear me to sing they want to hear me sing the way I sing. So we just, for both records, the new Wide Mouth record and the new Big Sugar record, we set up in the studio as a band, played Thank You, Good Night, and that was it. So it was a very liberating experience to have, the band, everyone's been playing in the gap there while we were touring together. So everyone's skills as a musician have increased and
Definitely.
Improved. So all of us being in the studio together was, in a lot of ways, better than it was in the old days. You know, just with time.
What was that like for you, Sean, doing a live off the floor kind of album with No Bad Day?
Well, in a lot of ways, it felt like we were making our first record. Not just because Gordy has become our bass player, but because usually a band's first record, you tour for a really long time. You really hone those songs. You play them live in front of people, and you see, during the bridge, a lot of people went to the bathroom. I don't think the bridge is really working, so let's write a new bridge. And, this song just feels like the room it's as if we're playing our biggest radio song and they've never heard it, and they're singing the chorus by the second time it happens. That's a good sign. And then, by your second and third records, you usually have a little while to make them in between tours. So, besides the fact that we had a new bass player, we really worked on those songs. We went on tour with ZZ Top for last summer and played a bunch of new songs a night. We kept going on these little writing sessions where we'd go to Saskatoon or to Vancouver, and we'd hang out for a little while and workshop some songs really quickly, and then go, all right, tomorrow night and the next night we're playing them in the little blues bar in town. Hope you remember the lyrics, hope you remember the chord changes. If not, heads up and just watch me. But you start to get fearless, if, like Gordy was saying, nowadays it's like, go in, sing it once, we'll airbrush it after, we'll tune it, we'll do all these things to it. And in a way that's much less efficient than just walk in with swagger and play it and pull it off. And we've all been playing for longer than some of the people coming to the shows have been alive. So if you can't do it, how many takes at a 3.5 minute song do you need before you get a good 3.5 minute song? It should really take you about 9 minutes to get a good 3 minute song if you get 3 tracks in, including coffee. So it was a joy. It was really nice to go in with guns blazing. We were at Willie Nelson's studio in Texas. So really the hardest decisions to make were, should we have barbecue again, or should we go Tex-Mex, or...
Right.
At that point it was all figured out to the point of, it just was just pouring out of us.
What do you think Gordy brought to Wide Mouth Mason that is different from Burl?
A lot of people don't know that he was a bass player before he was a guitar player. A lot of guitar players play bass as if they're a guitar player, sort of noodling around. And he has this real Motor City, sort of James Jamerson, weighty bottom-end funkiness that he brings to his bass playing. But because we've not only been friends so long, but he has been and continues to be a mentor to us. Our first tour we ever did in 1996 was when Big Sugar had played in Saskatoon, and we were the opening band. And our over-eager manager convinced Gordy to come see us, and he did. And then that night came and said, "What are you doing for the next 3 or 4 weeks? Do you want to come on tour with us?"
Ready to get a van, come on, Jeller, come with us to
Wow.
Winnipeg, and then Kenora, and then Thunder Bay, and then Sudbury. We just took them on the rest of the tour.
Yeah,
And that
that's
was
great.
one of the nicest little bit of serendipity that ever happened to us, because all these years later we're still making music together.
Yeah.
I met a young girl today. I won't call her name on the radio, but she was working a camera for a TV station. She's in a band. Oh, she says she's a singer. I don't know, 10 years from now we might be, seeing billboards for a radio station, of that girl. You never know. This talent it can sprout up anywhere, so you have to be kind of open-minded,
And with the internet nowadays, it comes up. It seems it comes up faster.
It's easier to be really good if you're from a small town as well. And believe me, I still live in a small town, and I've lived in big cities and small towns my whole life. And man, it was rough living in a small town. I lived in Medicine Hat, Swift Current, places like that. Man, they had no cable TV. They didn't even have a McDonald's. Never mind, the internet, and you haven't heard of it yet. So it's a little easier now to get your music out there and also be influenced by a bunch of different things. And my dad had to drive me 7 hours to Edmonton just to get bass strings when I was a teenager.
Wow.
It's crazy. Now you can
Order them on the internet.
order them on the
Yeah,
internet.
exactly. The internet has really brought, as I mentioned, and you're saying right now, a lot of different talent to the limelight. I went to a show on Friday for a guy named Dan Mangan, and doesn't really get much radio play. I found out about him on iTunes. Show is sold out, you know, and it's interesting because people think radio's where you hear artists, but he's not played that much. But the other interesting thing is he sold out of vinyl at the show.
Yeah.
And it seems like we're at a weird point in music now where new technology and old technology is kind of mashing together.
Yeah.
It doesn't really know where it's going.
That was part of the decision to put Big Sugar back together, because we kind of embody both of those aesthetic choices. You know, we utilize modern digital technology to do what we do. I've shot and directed all our videos for this record. I shot them on my iPhone or on my laptop. I mean, I never at any point turned on a camera or a light or put a traffic pylon out to make this video. You know, we just walked around. I shot a couple wide mouth videos with my laptop open, just passing it around. The guys just singing along with my, you know, I had the song playing on my computer. So I mean, you can do that. In the old days, it would cost you $50,000 and trucks and a crew and catering and a makeup person. I'm like, really? You don't need all that anymore.
Yeah.
But you know, we use the new technology, but our aesthetic choices are still. I mean, I love some classic '70s reggae and rock and roll and old 1930s blues records. You know, that hasn't changed my taste in music. It just makes it more accessible to me. You know, so I love that mashup of old and new. I got a 10-year-old who had discovered my vinyl collection. I've got thousands of vinyl records, as you can imagine, and he found them in the storage room. And was like, "We're setting up the turntable, Papa. Come on!" I've got one more Beatles record, and I'll listen to the whole thing. Like, he's listened to all the Beatles records. He's going for, you know, he's now on C, so he's at Cream. Eric Clapton and Cream. That's his next listening journey.
What do you guys make of the resurgence of vinyl? Or do you think it is one of those things that never went away and people just kind of forgot about?
No, it went away.
Remember it?
Yeah, it went away.
Did it?
It really did. It went away, man. Like, there was you couldn't buy a turntable or a needle for a turntable for a long time, a good decade, where stuff wasn't available on vinyl. Some bands had it kind of just as a specialty, but that stuff was really kept alive in the DJ scene, where, you know, guys like to still spin plates and mix and scratch. You can do it digitally now, but some guys they love that old school feel and sound of putting the vinyl record on the turntable and twisting and spinning and mixing and cutting, all that stuff with the vinyl. So it was kind of like the technology was kept alive by it moved over to a different genre of music. But because you had that being so popular, dance music and all that stuff, it kept the technology alive. So turntables got better. You can run your turntable off a USB cable now, as opposed to, like, I tried to set up my old record player. I was like, I need a grounding wire, and a red goes to and a yellow and a black and a green one. It's like, really? All these wires? I went to, you know, Best Buy and got one with a USB cable. Just plug it right into my computer. I'm good to go. Yeah. So they've improved the old technology too.
And besides the artists like Dan and there's Revolution Per Minute and No Bad Days will be available on vinyl as soon as we possibly can get them to be. But that it also was keeping certain catalogs alive that were never made into CDs or made into anything. So in a way, vinyl and the internet were doing the same thing, where now you can search for any artist's record from any period that, you know, maybe the record company that made it only made 2 rotations of it, and then it was forever lost if you were trying to find it physically. And now you can think of anything. We used to tour around with a box full of VHS tapes to put on in the bus before we went on stage to try and, you know, get some inspiration and figure out what the tone of the show is going to be. And now you can go, well, of the 18 minutes of Django Reinhardt tape that exists, I'm going to watch 17 minutes of it before we go on stage. You can watch anything. And in a way, at the same time, all that technology that's made it so some preschooler can come in and recite the alphabet and a producer can turn that into a cookie-cutter pop song, it also separates the lifers from the dabblers. When you see them get up on stage and everyone has their YouTube cameras out and the person croaks and can't do it. There's become a real emperor has either clothes or has no clothes thing to, okay, so you sounded amazing in the studio, now walk on stage and kill that crowd and sound better than your record and have more passion than your record. And that's been an interesting byproduct of all those things that make it so you don't have to do that, make it all the more important that you can.
Right. Great. I was going to call you Grady.
You
Sorry.
can.
That works.
Gordy, I saw you in town with Grady.
Mm-hmm.
Minus 40. It was so bloody cold.
Yes, it was.
But such a great show and so much energy. What's it like coming back to Alberta?
Well, yeah, it's cold. We got recently some high and mighty reviewer reviewed our show in Edmonton, and like got all into slagging us because of our wardrobe. Saying,
I think he was mighty high.
Yeah, maybe it was mighty high. We're not high enough, probably. Which is probably more the case than if you didn't dig the big sugar cane. He kind of got off on a, he's like, oh well, they're obviously in terms of their fashion, they're trying way too hard. Like, why is Gordy Johnson wearing a toque inside at a rock show? You know why? I'm not trying to be cool. I'm trying to not be cold, fool. This is not a fashion statement. I'm cold. I've lived in Texas for 10 years. It is cold, and it ain't even started getting cold yet. There's Alberta boys walking around in flip-flops going to the beer store still. I'm looking at you guys like you're crazy. I used to do that 15 years ago, but now I'm looking at you, you're crazy. Are you kidding? I brought my winter jacket. It's a jean jacket. That doesn't count.
Gary Lowe has been cold since the 70s.
He came from Jamaica in the 70s. He's cold. We're cold. If we wear sweaters on stage, we're not trying to impress somebody. Jackass. I'm cold. There. Okay, I think I've had my say. There's my rebuttal. Come on, man.
I think we all feel
I'm not trying to prove anything. It's cold out there, man. Yeah, what was that question again? Yeah, what's it like coming back to Alberta? It's a bit of culture shock, really. I mean, it's familiar, but at the same time, it's sort of it's a bit of culture shock for me.
Is it like that coming
in
back?
British Columbia doesn't sing as well.
Is it like that coming back to Canada in general? I mean, with the
Yes.
whole just the atmosphere of being in the U.S. To me, it feels different.
When you compare it to anywhere else in the United States. And I've lived in a lot of other American cities, but living in this state of Texas is definitely, it's its own nation in a way, with its own quirks and personality. And, I've grown quite fond of it. But I still have land in Alberta. I come up every summer, and I end up being up here every Christmas, take the grandkids to see the grandparents,
What was it like for you, Sean, recording down there?
Part of what I was excited about was kind of getting away from everything, I've made some records where I live in the city where we make the record, and you, as much as you're inside that experience, you're also going, well, and I need to get milk when I go home, and then when I get home there'll be some mail there and some things I have to deal with.
Real life stuff,
right. Where this was sort of like we went off to for us a sort of secluded place. The studio itself is and at Wheelie Land on a golf course, and you have to drive quite a ways to get to it from food or from Gordy's place where we were staying. So I was excited about that, but also just for the Texan flavor to kind of rub off on it, and it was fitting that we had toured with ZZ Top as we were working on a lot of the songs, because the vibe of the record is very much kind of a cross between R&B, where R&B met 70s blues rock, sort of like where Freddie King was doing his stuff that Leon Russell was producing, or listening to a lot of the ZZ Top records, a lot of the Hendrix Band of Gypsies records. There's just this, if it had a taste, it would sort of taste like barbecue. If it was a plant, it would kind of be a cactus. So I was excited for some of that to seep into the album, for the environment that we were in to make it onto the tape. And it's a hard thing to put your finger on, but to me, I think it did. A lot of the attitude and even the way we played was informed by where it was made and how it was made.
That's huge. Well, thank you guys very much for coming in. Really appreciate your time. Wide Mouth Mason, Big Sugar, live tonight at the Stone. Thanks again.
Yeah.